Welcome back, friends. Welcome back. It wasn't at all surprising when Brazilians went back to the polls on Sunday and the second time around elected Dilma Rousseff as President Lula's successor. Ms. Rousseff, who has never held elective office before, becomes the country's first woman president. But her win owes a lot to Lula's endorsement and his record. She promised to continue with Lula's policies, but can she honour that legacy? Many say she lacks Lula's legendary charisma, something that I encountered, we all encountered, when we met Lula here on the programme, and he said he didn't agree that Brazil's economy, as people were saying at the time, was lagging behind others.
Não. eu acredito que é importante compreender a realidade de cada país.
I believe that it is important to understand the reality of each country. Brazil is a country that had a lot of opportunities, but never took advantage of them, because in the past, people tried to make magic of the economic policy. We decided that we would take the economic policy very seriously. So we developed three aspects. One would be to build domestic and foreign credibility. Second, we would have to control inflation. And thirdly, we would have to make the country grow. And that is exactly what is happening in Brazil. Today, Brazil is experiencing the best economic moment of its history.
That's President Lula there. But can, in fact, his successor surprise the world and turn out to be as charismatic as her predecessor? Joining me now is the Brazilian correspondent from Globo News, Silio Bocconera. Silio, first of all, do you think that she has a chance of matching President Lula's success, or is that out of the question?
He can match she can match his success, but she cannot match his charisma. As you saw it yourself, and as everybody has recognized, he's quite unique. Even President Obama says, "You're the most popular politician in the world. You're the man." And that kind of personal charm, she does not inherit. Somebody has already described her as Gordon Brown without the charisma. So she may not have that part of his qualities, but she certainly has the capacity to carry on.
What about Dilma herself? I mean, we know very little about her. You know everything about her, of course. What's the most important thing we should expect or understand about her?
Hard work. She is known as very tough, and people sometimes present that as a criticism, but in fact I think that's more to do with the fact that she's a woman. If it was a man, he's firm. A woman says, well, she's very tough, not very feminine in that sense, but very well organized. She's a bright woman. She has she doesn't have an experience in elected office, but she has a lot of administrative experience within the Lula government and before that on state level, in finances and in energy. Two areas that are key for the development of Brazil, because as Lula told you, Brazil is now reaching this level of development that will put it in a position of being one of the most important countries in the world. In 5 years, the country is supposed to be the 5th gross national product in the world, past Britain, past France.
Is she likable? Is she very feminine or not very feminine? Is she a charmer? Or is that going to be one of the problems replacing Lula's charm?
I wouldn't choose any of those adjectives to classify her.
Really? That's interesting. Bad news for her, but interesting.
But again, I think we tend to pay too much attention to those aspects because she's a woman. And if we're dealing with a man, those things wouldn't be important. The question we will ask, is she going to do her job? And I think she has quite a good chance to be able to do her job properly without having these additional factors that Lula by chance had. But then again, you can't compare anybody to Lula.
You can't compare anybody to Lula. And do you think she will try to emulate him, or do you think her pride will make her say, I'm going to do some things different to Lula? I won't be seen just as a shadow of Lula. I'm going to positively change some of his policies. Or is she going to follow him slavishly?
Not slavishly, but I think she will follow the basic principles of his government. And in a few days, in the middle of this week, a few days after the elections, Lula was asked about how much he would interfere. And he says, it's impossible. Her government is going to have her face. And if I'm asked my opinion, I'll give my opinion. But I'll be out of that, out of the picture.
How will she get on, in fact, with the President of the United States and with Chavez in Venezuela?
She will certainly get along very well with Obama, who in fact called her immediately after the elections, with the nice, proper words of this times, but hoping that they can work well together. And I'm sure they will be able to work out. I have some doubts about Chavez, because Lula had a very personal relationship, a very understanding, and some people said too understanding in relation to Chavez. I'm not sure she does that, although Chavez has said very nice things about her.
So how do you think she will conduct herself in terms of following the legacy of Lula or not following it?
I think she will follow the principles of the Lula government, 2 periods of government. She will not have the same style, and we wouldn't expect that to happen, because it's completely different personalities, besides the fact that it's a man and a woman. But I would think she will follow the basic principles and just carry on what Lula has started, with a few differences here and there.
President Lula was generally felt to be the most powerful man, certainly the most powerful president, but most powerful man, probably, in South America. Will Dilma be the most powerful person in South America, or is that a title she has to earn?
She does have to earn that, but that comes a lot with the weight of the country.
Yeah.
If you're a very powerful, very efficient, very good president of a smaller country in South America, you cannot pretend to have that much influence. Whereas if you're the president of Brazil, the 5th largest country in the world, and without a doubt much bigger than any of the countries in the area, you're naturally bound to be more influential. And since she follows up a particular leader who was very influential as well, very careful and able in dealing with the neighbors, she'll probably carry on the same way.
But why do the opposition say things like this, but why do the opposition claim that she's a threat to democracy?
Not all the opposition, some part of it, more to the extreme right, because they took into account, first of all, there's a resistance to the Workers' Party, which is Lula's party, that has a background as a party of the left. Although in government he showed to be very practical, very pragmatic, very moderate. But there's also her background, because in her youth she was a member of an opposition movement, a guerrilla movement, in fact, urban guerrilla movement that was against a military dictatorship. But you've got to take that into context. It was a military dictatorship. Any kind of protest was completely wiped out. So some people just remained quiet. She joined a group that was very militant against the military dictatorship. And for that, she was arrested, she spent 3 years in jail, and she was tortured. So her background and her membership in a group like that, says people, oh, it's very careful, she's a threat to democracy. But we're talking about 30 years ago, in fact, 40 years ago.
And now, I mean, her term lasts for how long?
4 years.
And at the end of the 4 years, we expect President Lula to return?
Big speculation, big question mark. Will he do that? He's been asked that several times.
Yep.
He says, no, I have nothing to do with that. I'm not interested. But, politicians, he may say he's not interested now, and 4 years from now, all of a sudden he develops a sudden interest in it.
There can't be a more interesting job in Brazil than that one.
Perhaps a football player.
Well, I was going to say, unless manager of the Brazil national...
Not manager, but if you're the best player, that's a great job to have.
That's a great job to have. Why does Brazil produce so many, above its population, brilliant footballers? Why is that?
One of the things that it's practically the only sport that people really dedicate themselves to is the kind of sport that you can practice anywhere, you can play anywhere. You don't have to have resources, you don't have to be rich. Any kid, and it's a team sport, so if you're not too good, you can be a member of the team anyway. And with 190 million people spread all over this huge territory, you're bound to find the cream of the cream, and win 5 World Cups, as we have before, and we're going to win the next one as well.
6, if they win the next one. Thank you very much indeed
Pleasure.
for joining us. That was very interesting indeed, wasn't it? Very interesting indeed, talking to this bright, intelligent man about a bright, intelligent woman. Until next week, goodbye for now.